Alright y'all, quick little dessert video today. I'm going back to my Duncan Hines keto friendly. This is a chewy fudge brownie mix. And once again, not a bad product by itself. But we are going to crank it up a notch, make it even better. So we're going to go ahead and get our mix out of the box there. And while we're getting everything together, we're going to go ahead and set our oven to 350 as it calls for. So today I'm doing this in a 9x9 glass baking dish. Before we get it started, I'm just going to spray it real lightly with some pan spray. You don't want to go too crazy with it. But that's just going to help us to be able to loosen up those brownies once they get finished today. So first things first, back to my favorites. So today I have some salted pecans, and these we don't want to bust up as much, but we do want to break them just a little bit. It'll help us to cut the brownies a little later. But per the cookies, I really wanted to break those up a bit more. But this you can kind of leave a little chunkier. So you want about that consistency, you know, nice big chunks, some of the halves broken. So we're going to start with that. We're looking at about a cup of salted pecans there. So we're going to also add one of my other favorites, the Lily's no sugar added. These are going to be our dark chocolate chips today. I'm going to add about half a cup or so of those as well. Again, I really like this Lily's brand. It does really well. And just as a reference, let's check it out here. We're looking at 8 grams of carbs per 60 chips, and 0 sugar. Again, they do use the erythritol, which is the sugar alcohol, but really good keto friendly. And I'm going to do, like I said, about half a cup, measure it out, like so. And this recipe will call for 2 eggs as well as 6 tablespoons of butter and a 1/3 cup of water. But as I've said in the past, when it comes to baking, cookies or cakes or anything like that, you do need the moisture. But to me, too much water does make it kind of a tough, crumbly consistency, and we're trying to avoid that. So I did add an extra tablespoon of butter, and we want that melted. Just melt it in the microwave for about 30 seconds. You don't want it screaming hot, again, because once we add that to this, it's going to start melting those chocolate chips. And we want it to be consistent. We want nice chunks of the chocolate in the brownies. Alright, so I'm going to let that cool for just a bit, as it is a little warm at the moment. But also on top of that, I'm adding some water as well as bacon grease. Now, I know it sounds a little crazy, but we do have this bacon that sells at our grocery store that is a churro flavored bacon. So I made some of that the other day. I retained the grease, saved it. It's got really good little sweet flavor to it. And that bacon animal fat's going to add another dimension to your brownies that are just unbelievable. So, again, we're going to add our mix to the pecans and the chocolate chips. I don't want to add the warm butter directly to the chocolate chips, again, because we don't want them to all melt. And I'm actually going to put in our water and bacon grease first as well, because that's going to help it cool off the butter as it enters the bowl here. And as well as the 2 eggs. Now, these are farm fresh eggs from my stepson and his wife's chickens out in Leander. Excellent eggs. They're producing like crazy right now. They are organic. As you can see, they got a nice, like, almost orangish colored yolk there. That's going to tell you that that chicken's been raised really well, eating some really good stuff, what it should be, you know. But beyond that, again, we're adding all that together. And then I'll add my butter slowly, trying to cool it down just a bit. And again, I'm using the salted Kerrygold butter. To me, Kerrygold butter is the best. It is not necessarily considered organic, but organic butter is great. Don't get me wrong. I love organic butter, but this Kerrygold just adds another layer to it. So once it's all in, I'm going to go ahead and bust up the egg just a little bit. And then we are going to go ahead and get it all mixed up. And for that, I'm going to use a rubber spatula just so I can kind of fold it all together there. We don't want to work the mix too much, but we do want to get the egg, the bacon grease, and butter all incorporated. So I'm just folding it in there. If you have a little bit come off, that's all right. Just brush it right back in. All right. Getting good consistency here. Now, again, recipe calls for about 28 to 30 minutes. To me, that's a bit long as well. Just like the cookies, we want to pay attention because we don't want them too overdone. Otherwise, they do get kind of crumbly. And I'm not sure if it's from the texture of the erythritol or what's in it that gets it that crumbly texture if you cook it too far. But I know that the butter will help it all kind of moisten up. And they should be a nice chewy brownie once we get all done. Alright, we look like we're good and incorporated there. Just want to go through it a couple more times to make sure. I'm going to scrape off any excess that is on your spatula. And we'll do it again once we get it into the baking dish. So just kind of scoop it down into that baking dish. Like so. Try to get all that out of there. It is a really thick consistency, kind of a brownie batter, borderlining a dough. All right, we got most of that out of there. Again, just scrape off your spatula. And then here's another trick as well that some people don't necessarily do. They just kind of let it fill the pan itself. I like to push it into the corners. That way we get a nice even brownie batter. And then once I get it kind of all evened out, I'll just go back and forth just to get any of those high points down as well. If I notice a little bit's kind of gathered up in one corner or one side, just push it to the other side that needs it. Alright, nice and even there. Got a little bit high here. That's alright. Again, we're just spreading it out. Get the rest of it off your spatula. Alright, once our oven is ready, we're going to go ahead and pop those in there. So, as I was saying about the cook time, we're looking at about probably more like a 18 to 20 minutes. And we want to check it like halfway through. I also like to turn it in the oven. That way we know that it's going to be cooked evenly. So as soon as that oven is ready, we'll get it in there and start our baking. Alright, oven is about ready. So I'm going to get those brownies in the oven. Again, I like to use the top shelf there. That way it's not right directly on top of the flame. I do prefer gas, as I've said time and time again. Our stove is gas, so it works out really well. I'm just going to kind of clean up our cutting board a little bit. And as that bakes, again, we're looking at about 18-20 minutes. We definitely want to check it about halfway through that to turn them. Once we get those all turned and they are finished, I will bring them out and show you the beautiful keto brownies. All right. So we are going to take our brownies out of the oven for a second just to look at them, see where we're at. All right, looking good. I'm going to give them a turn. And they should go for about another 8 minutes or so, probably 5 to 8 minutes. And once they are finished, I'll pull them out and we'll see what they look like. All right, we got them for the rest of the time that we needed. So I'm going to get them out of the oven. Shut our oven off. Looking real good. So that's about the consistency that you want there. You don't want it to be too moist looking. At the same time, you want that top layer baked off. And then, similar to any other cake or brownie we make, just use the old toothpick method. Comes out dry and clean. They are ready. And a little bit later, I'm going to let them cool off. A little bit later, I'm going to do a short of me cutting them and plating them as well.